house inspection is an area that not many people know about. I've been the kind of person that when I go and purchase a property, it looks amazing, it looks nice. And then a year later, you get in, you see cracked walls, you see plumbing issues, you see electrical issues, you see, you name it. And then you start regretting the purchase that you have made. I've always said when it comes to buying property in Ghana, there are some key people that you need to make sure you involve when it comes to you purchasing those properties. Trust me, I've lost so much money because of this one person that I have not included. And he's sitting right next to me. So, Mr. Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Good. Tell us, what is it that you do? Why is it that you are so important when it comes to buying property in Ghana?
That's very, very important. What I do is a home inspector. I'm a home inspector. We provide home inspection services, primarily for individuals who are buying or building their own dream house.
Okay, I see. And house inspection is an area that not many people know about. I've been the kind of person that when I go and purchase a property, it looks amazing, it looks nice. And then a year later, you get in, you see cracked walls, you see plumbing issues, you see electrical issues, you see, you name it. And then you start regretting the purchase that you have made. And so I said to myself, no, there must be something that I've done wrong. And I realized what it is. I didn't get a home inspector involved before purchasing a property. And that's why I thought it was important today to make sure we have this conversation with Mr. Robert, who is a home inspector, can tell us why everybody, especially those of you that are in the diaspora, purchasing a property, need a home inspector. So let's go back to basics.
Okay.
What does a home inspector do?
Good question. A home inspector comes in. We act just like a doctor. Okay. When you get sick, you go to the doctor to find out what is the ailment. So when you're buying a house, before you sign on the dotted line or before you give the seller or the developer all of your money, you want to know what condition that house is in. It starts from the foundation, from the beginning, all the way up to the roof. So we go in, we inspect, depending on the stage of your development, the foundation, your electrical, your plumbing, your framing, your windows, your doors, basically everything that the home inspector can visually see and put his or her hands on it, from the interior to the exterior, will get evaluated. This generally takes approximately 3 to 4 hours to complete the job. Depends on the size of the house and the condition of the house. So in a nutshell, we act as a house doctor. So when you are ready to give the seller or the developer that last check, you know the condition of that house before it is too late. Once you have handed over the last payment, then whatever problem that the house has is yours. And there have been a lot of horror stories similar to yourself. You pay the developer off, you move in the house, everything looks pretty. You start testing everything. What we like to call is lived in now. So all of the problems that were invisible will come now to the surface. And you realize, oh, wow, you have maybe electrical problems, maybe the roof is leaking, maybe you have some very sharp cracks developing in your foundation walls. These are telltale signs of bigger issues. And these are the kinds of issues that will cost you thousands of dollars or millions of CDs to correct the situation. And you could have possibly avoided all of that is by having a home inspector come in and inspect that property from A to Z before you close.
my heart is beating because you recently came to check out one of our properties and we saw issues that we could have avoided before purchasing that property, cracks, electrical, you name it. These are things that could have been found out before purchasing the property. And that's why I do what I do, because of all the mistakes that I have made. I don't want you guys to make those mistakes. Honestly, if I had a home inspector, I wouldn't be facing some of the issues that I face now. Now, you explain home inspection as a house doctor. Just like when somebody goes into a doctor's surgery, right? There's normally a lot of common illnesses like a cough and a cold, a headache, for example. What are some of the common things that you find as a home doctor when you go and check out people's properties?
We find out primarily maybe your electrical outlets are not properly grounded.
Like the earth wire, what's it called? Like the earth wire is not there?
It's not grounded.
Oh, gosh.
And then sometimes, depending on the condition, you can become the ground if you're plugging something in the wall. And can you imagine it? Because most likely that will be the last time you will be able to tell anybody if you
that something happens.
So there are some very serious issues that you need to know before you close on that deal. Because like I said, once the deal is done, you closed on it, that problem becomes yours. If you know about these problems prior to giving the developer or the seller that last check, you can now point these issues out and request that your developer
fixes them. Yeah.
Fixes these issues before you close. Sometimes the developer may not be willing or able to do it at the moment. They may be willing to give you some credit, some financial credit, so that you can correct these situations on your own without it being an expense to you.
Yeah.
So that's the primary thing. You know the condition of this property before it is too late. Some properties, unfortunately, we did one not too long ago where the gentleman was considering, he bought an existing building. It was 2 stories. His father wanted to put an extra story on this building.
Yeah.
And after we did soil tests, foundation inspection, we realized, and we also reviewed his drawing. We realized that was not a wise decision because the soil that's up under it would not have supported all of that
3
weight.
stories, so it could have just...
It will collapse. I'm sure you have heard about horror stories here in Ghana and elsewhere where that type of situation happened.
We're too susceptible to seeing things that just look pretty and not looking underneath, and seeing, I'm literally, the reason why I'm sitting here just shaking is because these are things that I've literally, it's happened to me. Where I remember there's a property I had in the East Legon Hills area, and it's so simple that there was no drainage on the balcony. So it sounds simple, right? But the fact that, okay, what happens there could be a flood on the balcony or whatever it may be. These are some simple things, but some things that people might not even think about is checking that you see that there's plug sockets in the house, but you'll never ever. How many people have ever checked that the plug sockets even work?
Most people don't know.
They'll just assume that it's a brand new house.
And even if it's working, if the wires have not been connected properly, you have what we call either hot neutral, which is a simple fix. That means they have the wires reversed and the wires is on the wrong poles on the outlets. That could cause a shortage or cause you to have a shock if you plug something in. I have a horror story. I was doing a home inspection for a lady, and I put my tester into the outlet and bang, it just exploded.
Here in Ghana?
No, this was in Chicago.
Okay.
This was in Chicago.
Okay.
But the example and the situation is the same because electrical doesn't have any boundaries. Electricity is electricity, right?
Yeah.
So if that had not occurred, who knows what she would have done? A child could have plugged something in that wall and got electrical shock. So it's very important. So we have tools that we can plug into your outlets that's going to tell me if the wires are properly grounded, whether or not the cable wires are attached to the proper poles on the outlet, and it will let me know that. A lot of times you plug in, it's working, everything is fine. That's not the case.
Okay.
Those are things we consider hazardous.
Right.
They're hazardous to your life.
Okay.
And you would not know that if you just plug something in, or if you went, we have a term in the U.S. what we call Uncle Bubba. Some people, when they want to get a house inspected, or they trying to buy a used car, they go to their uncle, who's a generalist of everything, but really...
We're used to that here.
Yeah. And you will find out...
My uncle knows somebody.
and you'll find out you generally get what you pay for.
That's true.
If you don't pay, maybe I shouldn't say it that way, but if you're using the service of a friend or a family member who doesn't really have expertise in that area, they may know a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
But that old saying, a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
So they may know a little bit, but they will not inspect that house the way a trained inspector will inspect it.
Okay.
Because we're accustomed to checking everything that we can put our hands on and we can't see. Okay. We're accustomed to doing those inspections.
So let's talk about the expertise. Tell us a little bit about your background, your expertise. You mentioned Chi-Town. I used to live in Chi-Town, by the way, Lakeside, Belmont and Halstead. But anyway, in terms of just your background, why is it that you're now here in Ghana? What brought you to Ghana? Tell us a little bit about your expertise in this space.
Okay. Well, let me say I've been coming to Ghana since 1998, I believe was my first trip to Ghana. I've been coming here every year. In fact, I used to have 2 pineapple farms here.
Oh, wow.
But we're not going to go into all of that.
That'll be our next conversation.
Yeah. But I started doing home inspections back in 2013, I want to say. I currently have a home inspection company in Chicago. I've been operating in Ghana for a little over a year now. It's a challenging situation because most people in Ghana are not used to it.
And this is the reason why we do what we do. Trust me when I say, I needed Robert. I needed him way before. I would have saved so much more if I just got a home inspector. So you were doing this in Chicago and you're coming back and forth to Ghana. What made you realize that, this needs to be done here in Ghana?
Because I have a lot of friends who have immigrated to Ghana. I have even Ghanaian friends who lived in the States and come back to Ghana. You see all of the horror stories that's happening here. I know that I want to say all, if not all, 98% of the people who are buying homes here don't even think about a home inspection because it's not something that's customary here. So my job, along with you, is to educate the general public that there's a need for home inspection. One thing I find which is disturbing, it even happens in Chicago. After someone's about to buy a house and they know they're spending a lot of money. And then it comes down to getting the house inspected. And then they ask, well, how much it costs to do a home inspection? Let's just say the cost normally, even in the States, starts off around $400. That's for a house that's less than 2,500 square feet. Here, you deal in meters. I don't know the exchange rate, so I can't tell you that now. And then they get to the point where the realtor will say, you need to get you a home inspector. And they will call around and shopping around for price. And, $300, $400, $500. I don't want to spend $400 to get a home inspection. Let me call Uncle Bubba. Uncle Bubba will come and test this and that, and everything will be fine. But over time, we realized that's not a wise decision. Why would anyone be willing to spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a house, and they're not willing to spend a few $100s just to be sure of what it is they are getting? It's a peace of mind. Can you imagine? You're living in the UK. You have a family, a husband, a wife, a couple of kids. You decide to either move here as an immigrant or you're coming back to the place of your birth, and you're buying a house or you're having a house built. You done uprooted your family out of the beautiful home that you used to own before you sold it to get here. And you get here, move all your furniture here and find out that you got a roof leak. Find out that, my child almost got electrocuted because the outlets were not grounded. And then you start saying, damn, my problems could have avoided that if I had only engaged a home inspector. it is not widely known here, but hopefully that is going to change because Ghana is growing so fast. I remember when I first came here in 1998, the difference is almost like night and day.
Absolutely.
You know, development is just taking place so fast.
Yeah.
To make it short, it makes no sense from my way of thinking. Why would you avoid getting a house inspected before you close on that deal for peace of mind?
For peace of mind. You're absolutely right. It's something that's not customary here. As I keep saying, the reason why this for me means so much is because of the money I've personally lost. And I could have simply avoided it by getting a house inspector, right from the electrical challenges, right to the cracks, right to plumbing, right to leakages where, you know, in the POP, right next to the lights, you're seeing like droplets come through and the constant headaches, you know? And so I do, but I am also one of those people that be like, you know, I've just paid this amount of money. Why should I spend another $400, $500 on a property inspector? But in hindsight, I should have spent that money, you know? And because I could have avoided buying that property. So you're absolutely right. Are there any, you might have to cast your mind back here, horror stories here in Ghana that, you know, people have brought you in very much at a late stage. And these are just stories that people have had to fork out hundreds, thousands, millions in cities to rectify. Can you cast your mind back to some horror stories that you've seen here?
Well, I don't want to talk about your particular house because it's a beautiful home. Unfortunately for you, there may be some issues, but not earth-shattering, at least I don't think. Some of the horror stories that I have seen is that I have a friend who constructed a house, and he was the general contractor himself, but he was trying to work on his house here, and at the time he was living in Chicago. So the contractor said he did this and he did that. And once he moved into that house, he realized that he had the solar panel, which cost him, I think, something like $20,000 US to put on his roof, was not functioning properly. He wound up realizing that he had to buy a new battery, which cost him $10,000.
Oh, gosh.
And I asked him, why didn't you get a home inspection when you've lived in Chicago for all these years and you're accustomed to that? Well, because his explanation was he was building the house as the general contractor, but he doesn't know that much about construction. So he's relying on the contractor.
Other people here.
And he was led astray. Let me make something clear, though. I'm not accusing all developers or realtors of malfeasance. I'm not. Because sometimes, especially in the States, you have developers who will call a home inspector in after they have finished
themselves,
the project. So once the seller, once the buyer comes along, they can present the report to them. The buyer can have an option to order their own. But if that is the case, their home inspector is not going to come up with a lot of deficiencies. We already pointed those out, and they corrected it. So I'm not saying that all developers are bad guys and realtors are bad people. No, that's not what I'm saying. They may not even know of the situation. That's why you need that old saying, two heads or two sets of eyes is better than one. And if you train to do something, as a home inspector, I'm focusing on a number of things that Uncle Bubba is not even aware of. You know. So, and let me say, personally, I started the home inspection business in Chicago in 2013, but I have been in the housing industry for over 30 years as a developer. I develop myself. I'm a rehabber. I take old, existing, dilapidated structures and renovate them. So I'm not looking at the home inspection from one set of lens. I'm also looking at the home inspection as though I was doing the construction myself. So I even know tricks personally, based on my age and my experience, that the average home inspector doesn't know. I'm not coming at it from book knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm coming at this from hands-on-hand experience. So I know some of the tricks that some of the bad developers do. They hide the deficiencies and hope that the buyer does not get a home inspection, or hoping that the home inspector overlooks the issue, because they have ways of hiding things.
I see.
And a good home inspector will discover those hidden things before you even purchase. You have signed on the dotted line.
So as you were speaking, you reminded me that when I bought one of my properties in the UK, before you even get a mortgage, the mortgage company requires you to get a house inspection. So now I remember. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You know?
In the States, in most states in the US, it's not a requirement. It's encouraged. Eventually, probably in most of the states in the US, they're gonna require it. Because, once again, some people just don't want to spend a few $100 for peace of mind.
Yeah.
And then it has a boomerang effect, because if you as a realtor and you refer or you encourage the buyer not to get a home inspector, it could boomerang back on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong, first person they're gonna look at is you. Did you tell me
to buy this property? Yeah.
So it's in the realtor's best interest
to recommend
and to protect yourself to recommend a home inspection, and don't look at it as someone's coming to
take in some
blow your deal, so to speak. We are not in the business of taking a small issue, at least we should not be, taking a small issue and making it appear to be a big issue. That's not our role. But if it is a big issue, then we need to make that known.
Absolutely.
But even the big issues, the small issues, the medium issues, everything need to be spelled out in black and white, what we have discovered.
Yeah.
And that way you can take it to your realtor or your developer and make those corrections.
So let's talk about that. Cast your mind back. You came over to our property. You gave us the report. What should somebody expect when they receive this document from you that goes through, you know, all the things that you've inspected? What should they see, right from the things that are hazardous to things that are warnings to advisories? Like, what is it that they will see on a report from you?
Good question. On the first few pages of the report, after you see the pictures and all of the niceties and things, we do a summary. Generally, there's a summary. So anything that we discovered, it will be summarized in red ink, which would be the first thing that would catch your attention. And then as you go through the report, those summaries will be broken down into more detail, explaining exactly what it is we discovered and what measures you should take in order to make those corrections. So we try to present the report in such a way that it's not too taxing on the average person attention span, I should say. But basically the report is roughly at least 50 pages.
It is.
And we normally send it to you via email. So it's just that detailed. It starts off with the summary. After you go through the summary, then you can go through each line by line detail of what it was that we discovered. And then after you have gone through that, if you have a realtor involved, you can talk it over with your realtor. You could talk it over with your attorney if there's an attorney involved. And then we ask you to give us a call if you have any questions, and then we will explain to you exactly what it is we discovered and what we recommend.
Right. Okay. So just in terms of
many pictures.
There are as well. There are, and so for people that are here in Ghana, and they're starting to hear about this house inspection profession, right? Is it a regulated body? What is the landscape look like in terms of, or just generally in terms of house inspection? Because we know that we can go to quantity surveyors, we can go to lawyers. We know, these are the people that I highly recommend you get involved, by the way. You get a lawyer involved, you get a house inspector, right? You get your realtor, et cetera, et cetera. But generally, there is a realtor association, for example? Is there a house inspection association? What generally is there here in Ghana?
Even in Ghana, I belong to a house inspection association. In fact, the largest globally. You may have even heard of it in London or here. It's called International. Okay, but they're also trying to become more widely known. Here in Ghana, it's not required to have a home inspection. And most people, probably 98% of people, never heard of the association or none of this. But there is a professional association that keeps the home inspectors abreast of new technology. In the States, the home inspector has to take a renewal course and pass the renewal exam given by the state every 2 years in order to renew your license. So it keeps us abreast of new technology. It keeps us abreast of what it is we studied 2 years before, because things change in memory phase. But you just the fact that you have to renew your license, you have to sit down and take an exam. So there's no shortcut. That's to assure that the inspector who's inspecting your home knows what he or she is talking about.
Okay.
And with Sabreez Home Inspection, so I have to give my company a plug.
Of course.
With Sabreez Home Inspection, you have someone who's experienced not only as a home inspector, also as a developer. And there's a couple other things I haven't even mentioned that has to do with insulation and how you make your home energy friendly, but that's beyond the home inspection thing. So we are generally well educated. My partner is a structural engineer. He's a Ghanaian. So he's stationed here. So those things, those little minute things that maybe I don't know, he knows about it. So we're well-rounded. And we're right now one of two home inspection companies in Ghana that I know of, because like I said, I come to Ghana every year. I spend months in Ghana. And when I came to Ghana, maybe 2020, during the COVID, I Googled home inspections in Ghana. Nothing popped up. The next year I came, I Googled it again. Nothing popped up. That's when I had the idea. This is needed. Then the next year I came, I Googled it. Lo and behold, there's a young brother who belongs to the same association that I belong to, who started his home inspections here. Which I said, hold it. I need to get more active. So that's what got me involved in it. I saw the need.
And I think that's right. And there is a need, but it's a need that we didn't know we needed, you know, until we needed it, you know? So I think it's super important. In fact, for me personally, it was actually through a lady called Hannah Tiase, who I realized when I had a conversation with her, she always used to say there's 5 main people you need when it comes to buying property in Ghana, right? And for me, once I heard, she kept mentioning house inspector. I was like, hold a minute. We've just bought all our houses. We've just purchased everything. So we need the house inspector back then, you know? So I think for me, that's the reason why I'm going to take one more time. Please, before you sign on that dotted line, get a house inspector involved. So Mr. Robert, how can people find out more about you? Where can they find you? And what will the process be when somebody engages you?
Well, first I would recommend that you go to our website, which is Sabreez. Let me spell that. SABREEZZ, home inspection. .ghana.com. Our website will pop up. You can go through the services that we offer. If you want to order an inspection on site, we have links on the website. You can click on those. That will open up, ask you for some preliminary information, and then within a day or so, we will contact you to find out exactly what it is. You can start there. If you in the diaspora, particularly in the US, and you're not familiar with WhatsApp, then you can call me directly in Chicago, which the area code is 773-312-2511. or you can go to WhatsApp and you can call our office here in Ghana. Forgive me, my assistants are sitting over there. I don't know the number by heart.
We'll insert it below. We'll insert the number, we'll insert all the details below.
Yes, and then my assistant will get on the phone and she will answer any questions that you have. Those questions that she cannot answer, then she will call me, then we will answer those questions. Okay. But I can guarantee you, if we do the inspection, we're looking for the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are going to tell you we have no conflict of interest here. We are going to report only what we have discovered. So those that the website, call myself or you call my assistant, the office here, and you can get in touch with us directly. We'll be more than happy to assist you. And the cost is really not unreasonable.
Compared to the price of a house.
You will get your money's worth knowing that before you are about to get those keys and give whoever that last check, at least this house is in move-in condition and you're not going to be experiencing no shock.
That's it.
Once you move in and start saying, man, I wish. And for those husbands whose wife had told you to get that home inspection, and you know how we are, men, sometimes we are bullheaded and we don't listen, then you're going to get what you're going to get from your wife when she goes in the house. And
told you so.
There's problems, We, as men, we know how that is.
So just finally, just to reinforce, what stage could people get you involved in?
Good question.
And also what other things you're checking? Let's just go through that all again, right from the soil, the foundation to the roof. Like, take us through the entire thing you cover, and then tell us what part of the process people should engage you in.
If you are building a home from the ground up, we would prefer for you to contact us even before the ground have been dug out. Okay, that way you can engage us. You may say, well, I want you to do a foundation, especially because that's where it all starts. And if your foundation is not stable or sound, I don't care what you put above it, the foundation would not hold it. So if you wait until the foundation has been poured, the backfill is already done, and if it doesn't have a basement, it limits what we can see. So if we can't see it, we can't fully evaluate it. So that's the problem with having the foundation done and not having it inspected. The second thing, let's say you have done all of that and you want to even build more than you had originally planned. You need to know the soil condition, because if the soil is not stable enough, you cannot put 2-story, 3 stories on it. It will collapse eventually. Or you will start seeing these shifts, these settling shifts, where you get these big cracks. So you need to know that. So we can do a soil test even after you have constructed the building. At least we know what kind of soil is there. We also will review your drawings to make sure that your architect is following the best practice in the industry. Because sometimes you may have drawings and you decide you want to make some changes. Okay, and maybe the pillars that you have constructed, the foundation, the soil, whatever the case may be, will not support what it is that you have decided you wanted to do afterwards, which is a case that we was working on not too long ago. So it depends. Most cases, people will call us after the property has been constructed already, which we can still do a thorough test, but it limits what we can see as far as the foundation is concerned. Especially my experience that most homes in Ghana do not have a basement. Okay, so if it doesn't have a basement, there's no way for us to even look at the foundation from the inside. Okay, so but we can basically evaluate most other things. You know, so from the roof to the foundation, we do it all.
Amazing. They do it all. To Mr. Robert from Sabreez House Inspection, thank you so much for joining me today. I think it's been a very insightful conversation. I sit here shaking because I realize that just by spending, you know, not even $1,000, I could have potentially saved way more than that, you know. So I think it's really something that is an important aspect of somebody's buying journey here in Ghana. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you're interested in, well, you know what? It's not even about your interest. You have to get a house inspector. Make sure you check out the details. We'll put the details all below as well. We'll also put the website, the phone number, everything in this video. So please, 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 please do yourself a favor. Learn from at least myself. And please get the house inspector involved right from the beginning of your project, right through to the end as well. So guys, if you are finding all the things that I put on this channel useful, then please do make sure you have subscribed. Please also give this video a thumbs up if you found today's video valuable. And also drop something in the comment. Ask Mr. Robert a question and we will make sure that we pass it on to him. Or let us know something, there may be a horror story, maybe something that you've learned after you've purchased your property. Drop it in the comments below. And until my next video, I will see you. Bye.